What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined by the OG co-host, Anthony Rivardo. We're here for a Game 3 recap and analysis. What a game it was. Artemi Panarin netted the overtime winner. The Rangers, they just can't seem to lose. I don't know what it is. All of a sudden, we just forgot how to lose, and I'm okay with it. 2 thumbs up from me. So we're going to be diving into this amazing game that unfolded upon our eyes last night. Before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss notification. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Leave your thoughts on the game down in the comment section below. And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on Instagram, X, and TikTok. But before we really get into the breakdown of Game 3, Anthony, how are you doing today?
I am doing phenomenal. I'm super happy about that Rangers win last night. I jumped out of my seat. I started screaming. I was so freaking hyped when Artemi Panarin did what he did. What a disgusting little tip in between the legs. That was beautiful. I was absolutely hyped over the moon. Honestly, I didn't think the Rangers were going to win that once they let it go into overtime, just because they were getting outshot by such a wide margin throughout the game. I felt like overtime was probably when they were finally going to crack, and the Hurricanes would be able to sneak one by Igor, but didn't happen. It really is a matter of finding those opportunities and letting our stars capitalize on them, because the other teams that we've been facing in the postseason, they're getting more opportunities. They're getting more shots on goal, but when Panarin has a shot, he usually capitalizes, and that's just the difference of this team. There's so much talent, and now we're 7-0 in the postseason. I mean, to win 7 in a row to start the playoffs, it hasn't happened since 94. We keep talking about it, but it's really insane. And yeah, man, I'm just super excited and happy with last night's win, and really just elated to be discussing it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say this is my formal apology to my neighbors in apartment 104 next door for me screaming at the top of my lungs 2 out of the last 3 nights, super late. I apologize, but you got to understand, I saw 2 overtime Rangers goals in the postseason, so I think it's okay, and we'll let this one pass. But speaking of the Stars, man, they've been cooking, and I think the problem in the last couple postseasons that we've had is that we've never been like one cohesive unit all cooking at the same time. There were some games where Kreider and Zibanejad were doing good, but then Panarin was off his game, and then vice versa. Look back at the last year against the Devils, Kreider and Zibanejad both had pretty good first rounds right there, but Panarin was off the grid. Trocheck was pretty much off the grid. Lafreniere did absolutely nothing with 0 points. But now Kreider, Zibanejad, Trocheck, Panarin, Lafreniere, did I say Trocheck? I think I did, but include him too twice because of how good he's doing. They're all producing at the rate that they need to be, all at the same time. So against a dangerous team like Carolina, sure, like they're outplaying us in a lot of aspects of the game. Like at Game 3 in particular, they had more shots by a very large margin. They controlled a lot of the zone time, a lot more than us. They had some pretty good high-quality chances. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter because Igor Shesterkin shut the doors, and we've had our star players score 3 or 4 goals in every single game this series. The fact that 3 is the lowest number of goals we've scored is pretty incredible across this little bit of a run that we've been going on. So shout out to Stars, Vincent Trocheck in particular, is leading the team in points through 7 games. I think he's tied for 2nd or 3rd overall in the NHL with points throughout these playoffs, only behind like Connor McDavid, which no one's ever going to top him. But it's been an incredible run. But let's talk about that overtime winner from Artemi Panarin. I remember when it went into overtime, I was upset, one, because the Rangers let the Hurricanes tie the game in like the final 2 minutes. So I was like, oh, man, I thought we were going to have it right there. Now the game's at risk again. Second reason I was upset is because I was like, man, I got to wake up at like 6 a.m. for work. I was really tired at work on Wednesday. So I was like, please don't make me do this again with another double overtime game. But my fears were pretty much immediately wiped off the board because it only took Panarin just over a minute and a half to score the overtime winner. A beautiful between the legs redirect from Vincent Trocheck to put it right behind Kochetkov. So, I mean, just the balls on Panarin to even attempt something like that, phenomenal. And then the fact that it went in, that's even better. It really just sweetens the deal. Panarin has 4 game-winning goals throughout the postseason so far, which I know, Anthony, you told me is tied the franchise record with Brian Leetch and Mark Messier, arguably in the top 3 greatest Rangers of all time. I don't even think that's arguably. That's pretty much just confirmed at this point. And Panarin has gone out of his way to tie their record in only 7 games. So shout out Panarin. He's my dog. He's my goat. But I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody was in the live stream yesterday, there was a little bit of a debate between Eric and Colin. If you know what the debate was, you know that Eric is officially losing the debate by a wide margin right now because of what Artemi Panarin did last night. But yeah, you're right. 4 game-winning goals in the postseason ties the franchise record for the most game-winning goals in a postseason. And that's crazy to think of considering we're not even done with the second series. So who knows if Panarin has a few more in him and ends up taking the record as a solo lead. That would be pretty incredible. But in terms of how historic this was, like I said, obviously the 7 wins, that's the best start to the postseason that the Rangers have had since '94. But also, shout out to Mika Zibanejad, tallied his 12th point of the postseason on an assist to Chris Kreider, who scored his shorthanded goal in the second period, which was incredible as well. But that Zibanejad 12th point tied a club record for the most points at this stage of the postseason. So not only is Panarin joining elite company and making records, so is Zibanejad. And of course, so is Igor Shesterkin, who I'm sure we're going to talk about in a second. But I would like to talk about the return of Filip. I can't believe that he was in the lineup and he was playing well. He looked good. I mean, maybe a little rusty at the start, a little shaky at the beginning, took off. Like, I thought he played really good throughout the second and third periods of the game and into overtime. That was just exciting, man, to see him actually get out there and put in significant minutes. I mean, if you want to compare it, he had 12 minutes in his time on ice compared to what did Rempe have? 4 in game 2?
4 minutes and 3 seconds.
Right. Immediately, we're getting higher impact, more ice time, more valuable ice time out of Filip. I told you I didn't want to see it happen because I was worried that it might disrupt things and, don't change something that's working. But I always said if Peter Laviolette makes the decision, I'll trust him and I'll be confident in him because every other adjustment that he's made has paid off for the Rangers. Well, he made this adjustment. It's paid off so far. Obviously, only 1 game, but it did pay off. I thought Filip was a nice change of pace for the Rangers yesterday, and he turned in a pretty solid performance. And again, it's just exciting to see him back on the ice because we didn't think we would see him again this season. So really exciting stuff there. But how are you feeling about Filip making his long way to return?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we all love Matt Rempe. He's our guy. He's a really fun player to watch. But in a series like we're playing in right now against Carolina, Rempe isn't the best suited for it. We've said it multiple times. And sure, Game 3 last night, it was pretty obvious right away that the things that Rempe does right were evidently missing. In that first period, Carolina laid some pretty heavy hits on us. They were using their strength to their advantage. And, that wouldn't have happened if Rempe was in the lineup. So that's the takeaway that you get when you remove a guy like Rempe from your roster. The other teams kind of have a little bit more confidence to, rough around without having to worry about the consequences of a 7'3" giant coming after them in revenge. But, luckily the Rangers are as talented and as good as they are, where they were able to kind of match that tone and adjust throughout the game. So to me, as much as we love Rempe, when it comes down between him and a fully healthy Filip, you got to take Chytil all the time. I know we were mostly against putting Chytil in over Rempe, but that was mainly just because of, health concerns for him. Maybe he wasn't ready yet, or the fact that he might be a little bit rusty, like you said. But to me, all those worries were just washed away rather quickly. He didn't record any points, but he had a shot on net. He had a phenomenal chance. It would have probably been the Rangers' best goal of the postseason at the time before Panarin scored the overtime winner, if he had finished that scoring chance. But seeing him play with confidence and really looking like the way that he did back in early November, that made me really happy to see. And I think moving forward with Game 4 coming up tomorrow night, Laviolette should definitely stick with this decision that he made. Keep Chytil in the lineup. Leave Rempe out for now, assuming the Rangers will probably advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. If they end up playing a team like Boston, or even add Florida, no matter what team the Rangers would play, they've got a lot of bruisers on their team. And that would be maybe one I would say, all right, Rempe, it's time to come back in because we need you to really just rough these guys up. But for this series, however long it may remain, Game 4, 5, 6, 7, I think the right decision would be to keep in Filip. He looked really good. The fact that he hasn't played in 7 months, I think, and then he comes out into the second round playoff game looking like that. It's absolutely incredible. A true miracle, in my opinion, back when we were thinking that maybe his career would be over, but hopefully we would see him next season. And all of a sudden he's blowing our minds, coming in as like a last second addition to this playoff series. So shout out Chytil. The fact that he even played is a thumbs up for me. And the fact that he plays good gives him the second. So I'm big on Chytil, but I think to me the biggest star of the game, Igor Shesterkin, right? Talking about Igor, he made 45 saves last night. Absolutely incredible. Going back from games 2 and 3, his total comes to 99 total saves. Only, I think, 5 goals against in those 2 games, which is kind of high, across 2 games. But at the end of the day, it's the Carolina Hurricanes, one of the best offensive cores in the league. They finished 3rd in the NHL for a reason. So I'm okay with it because Igor has been playing great, and apologies. And the offense is cooking so well that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They can score 2 or 3 goals a game, but we're going to score 4. So shout out Igor.
Major shout out to Igor. I wrote an article about him today, so I'm going to pull that up so we can talk about some of the stats that I put down in that. First of all, his 7-game winning streak is the longest for a goalie in franchise history since, of course, 1994, Mike Richter. So, again, joining an elite company is Igor Shesterkin, like the rest of these guys. He made 45 saves on 47 attempts, 957 save percentage in Game 3. But, dude, 104 shots faced in the last 2 games and 99 saves. Ridiculous. 952 save percentage. And he's only allowing 2.66 goals allowed on average. I think what he's doing is just ridiculous. And to make matters even more cool, he currently has the highest save percentage in club playoff history at .929, ahead of Henrik Lundqvist at .921. So Igor Shesterkin doing the Lord's work, putting the team on his back. He is the backbone, the czar, standing up, being an absolute brick wall in front of the net. I mean, I don't know who else you could give the credit to. Like, if you want to pinpoint somebody who's the MVP right now, who is carrying this team and doing the absolute most, it's Igor Shesterkin, man. And I know this is what we expected. We've always expected Igor Shesterkin to perform at a high level, but what he's doing right now is like almost unprecedented. Like, this is the highest level. This is higher than I think I ever imagined. This is another level of Igor that we didn't know he had in him. We've seen the best of the best from Igor, and now we're seeing better than that. I don't know. It's just incredible. Like, how much can you say about it? I'm almost dumbfounded by what I've seen from him. But, dude, Igor, just MVP.
I know it's remarkable to see Igor performing as well as he is, especially considering that his numbers are higher than Lundqvist. Like, as someone grew up watching Henrik Lundqvist play in multiple series every single year and watching how phenomenal he was. Like, we talk about how, like, the Rangers get carried by their goalies quite often. Lundqvist literally made that the staple of New York. He carried us every single game for like 10 years. And, he's probably, I know earlier I said Leach and Messier, top 3 greatest Rangers of all time. Only reason I didn't say top 2 is because Henrik Lundqvist exists. And the fact that Igor is currently outplaying him absolutely blows my mind. I know we're still quite early in the playoffs. It doesn't feel like it because we've been going for a couple of weeks. But, if the Rangers win this series, they're still only halfway there. So there's a lot of hockey left to be played. But I think Igor Shesterkin might be an early candidate for the Conn Smythe Trophy for MVP of the playoffs. I know it usually goes to the team that wins the Stanley Cup. But there have been a couple times in history where the team that loses in the finals, one of their players gets to win the award if they were that, MVP like. So whether the Rangers win or lose, I'm sure they'll make it very far. Would not be shocked if Igor Shesterkin wins that based off of his current play and if he's able to keep that up. But Igor, man, we got to love him. I think this has been a very, very close series. 2 out of 3 games went to overtime. The one game that didn't was still a 1-goal game. The series could have easily been 3-0 Carolina if 1 or 2 goals went a different way. So I think the reason why it is 3-0 Rangers, Igor Shesterkin. He slips up once, and this is an entirely different series. So not to take away from the fact that the Rangers are an overall perfect team. We got to give credit where credit is due to everyone on the roster. But without Igor Shesterkin, I think this is a very different year, and it doesn't start with 7-0. So like I got to give credit to my goalie right there. He deserves all the praises in the world, and I love him. But let's talk about Peter Laviolette.
Let's talk about him. Peter Laviolette. All right, so I will say this, though. If you were to pick any of the games where maybe Laviolette was a little bit outmatched, and, of the postseason so far, I would say that it would be this one. If you look at the stats and you look at the box scores, I think that you can conclude the Rangers Stars saved them in this one. But even still, I think you can't sing Laviolette's praises enough. When this team was getting kind of beat up at certain points in that game last night, it's not like they faltered, wavered. They didn't make any crucial mistakes to really kill them. Like, I think that, again, if you take this team and put them in the exact situation that they were in last night a year ago with Gerard Gallant coaching this team, they're not pulling out this win, in my opinion. I don't think there's any chance that they're pulling out that win in overtime. And so I think you got to, again, just look at this team in a vacuum and compare the differences from this year to last year. I keep saying it. You could argue last year's roster was more talented. Obviously, they loaded up Tarasenko, Kane, all those guys at the trade deadline. They don't have those guys, but they have a better coach. They have Peter Laviolette, and that's why they're winning games. But I will say last night, I think that the difference wasn't necessarily coaching. This time, it was the Stars coming to play. Like, it really just came down to Chris Kreider, superstar, made a superstar play. Artemi Panarin, superstar, made a superstar play. That's how I see the game last night. I thought that it really just came down to the Rangers had the better, most world-class players, and you got to give praise to them this time. So I always praise Laviolette, and I give him a little praise there. And I always probably overpraise him every single episode. But this time, I'm trying to make sure that I don't do that because I really want to give praise to these guys like Igor, like Panarin and Kreider, because they really came to play.
Well, I see. You're definitely right. Like, the Stars showed up when they needed to, but the reason why I wanted to bring up Laviolette is because I think if we had any other coach, particularly Gerard Gallant, the Stars wouldn't have been able to do what they needed to do. Leaving the first period, the Rangers did not hold the lead. Leaving the second period, the Rangers did not hold the lead. So, entering the final period of the game down by a goal, looking to really come in clutch at the end. If Gerard Gallant was our coach, we would have entered that third period with like Chris Kreider on the fourth line and the second line split up. All of a sudden, Keandre Miller is playing first line center because Gallant would have went into panic mode, tried to scramble something together to just shove out there on the ice and hope for a win. But what Peter Laviolette did right is that he didn't do anything. He went into the locker room, probably gave an incredible speech or something, and put his faith in the Stars and said, guys, just go out there. We know that this system works. It's proven to work, and I know it'll work again. And it did. So, yes, the Stars clutched, but thank you, Peter Laviolette, for not being like Gerard Gallant and just scrambling the lines every 5 minutes to try to fix a problem that can be fixed on its own just by just letting your Stars do their thing. So that's really like my praise for Peter Laviolette. I know you usually handle the glazing of him, but I had to throw it in there. I always take some Gerard Gallant slander when I'm up to when it's there, but. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Well, let me jump back in. Like, we all love Laviolette, so I'm happy that it's not just me giving him the praises. But you do make some really good points there. Like, that is the perfect counterpoint. I think that if it was Gerard Gallant puck, we would have just seen dump and chase all throughout the third period, hoping that somebody gets down to it and makes some impossible goal. Wasn't that? I thought that when the Rangers actually got into the zone, they capitalized. They made some solid plays. There were some opportunities down the stretch based on some good passing. And also, I mentioned Panarin and I mentioned Kreider and Igor. I did not mention Alexis Lafreniere when I was talking about the Stars just a second ago. I do need to mention Alexis Lafreniere because Sniper Gang, oh my God, that was a rocket into the back of the net. Dude, that goal was sick. I got so hyped for that one. I'm just feeling really good today, Dan. I'm all juiced up from this game last night.
I always say it, like, we never give Lafreniere enough credit. Like, we sit here and we talk about the big goals and the big saves, but we never talk about the goals that got us there. Lafreniere has like 3 goals in his last 2 games. But my favorite part of the Lafreniere goal was the Trocheck celly when he took the hit but got the pass off, and then Lafreniere scored, and he immediately turns around and just starts cheering in Sebastian Aho's face. I saw a tweet earlier that was just like the clip of Trocheck celebrating in his face. And it goes, in the NBA, this is a penalty. In the NFL, this is taunting. But in the NHL, that's just Vinny Trocheck. And there's another one that was like, this level of petty isn't made, it's born. Vincent Trocheck was born like this. He was born to be petty. It's just like, it's against guys that he used to play with too. So like he knows them. He knows them very well. He probably used to share like in a big Italian family feast every Sunday with Sebastian Aho and his wife or whoever he lives with. But now he's out here scoring overtime goals against them and celebrating in their face. And that's the beauty of the sport, you know. 1 second they're your best friend. Next day you're playing against each other in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoff series.
Yeah, and one other thing that I want to point out, Lafreniere led the team with shots on goal. He had 5. So that's what you'll have to see, man. Lafreniere being aggressive, taking the shots when they're afforded to him, and got to give credit. A lot of great dishes from Panarin and Trocheck as well. But yeah, man, I mean, Lafreniere did come to play, and he was playing aggressive, which is something that we discussed. I mean, I remember last year when we were doing episodes about him, we were saying that he wasn't aggressive enough, and the game was kind of passing him by in some ways, but no, not anymore. Now he's ripping those shots when he's got them, and he's got to keep doing that because he's scoring, man. He's got 3 goals in the last 2 games. Sniper last night, those 2 goals in the last game. So, yeah, hats off to Alexis Lafreniere. I mean, he's just looked phenomenal. And the guy you just mentioned, Vincent Trocheck, I haven't praised him yet. I got to praise Vincent Trocheck, my Italiano. The fact that he just keeps racking up point after point every single game, the amount of production the Rangers are getting from the second line is just ridiculous. He had 2 assists last night, once again. So extending his streak. What does that make him? I think that's 12 points now, right? Through 7 games, 12 points. Crazy.
It's absolutely incredible. And like, you know, not to sound like a broken record, but every time I hear something good about Alexis Lafreniere, it makes me need to bring up some hatred for Gerard Gallant. Like, I know, like, yeah, we talked about he wasn't aggressive enough last year. He wasn't blah, 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 whatever we needed him to do. It's just because Gallant kept him in the bottom 6 and never had the opportunity. And I know that Gerard Gallant is absolutely fuming right now watching that second line of Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere be the best line in all of hockey because he specifically declined its existence when he was the coach. So, you know, shout out him, I guess. We had to fire Gallant in order to reach the Holy Land, but here we are. So,
yeah. And one other stat to get you guys excited about Lafreniere, I just realized this, about Trocheck rather, 12 points. I just said earlier that the 12 points in the span was it tied a record for Zibanejad. I didn't realize Trocheck had 12 points as well. They both tied the record. That's crazy.
When you first said it, I thought about it, and I was like, maybe Trocheck doesn't have 12 points. And I was like, maybe he has 11, but no, it's definitely 12. So they both definitely tied that record.
Wow,
this is a historic team. We're watching magic unfold upon our eyes, and this is going to be one of those years where it's either going to be the greatest year of all of our lives, or it's going to be like the worst heartbreak that I've ever felt in my entire life. So hopefully we go with option A there.
No, definitely.
But the way that we've been playing, there's no reason to doubt that this year isn't going to end amazingly. But I don't know. I think like I've hit every point that I wanted to make up, unless there's any final pieces that you needed to add before we wrap up.
The last thing I got to get hyped about is just the PK, man. When is the number 2 power play in the NHL going to score on the power play? I don't know if it's going to happen, man. The Rangers PK is too good right now. It's crazy.
It's making me so mad because every time I encounter a Hurricanes fan on social media, they're just like, oh, we can't beat the Rangers and the refs. And I'm like, all right, look back in the first round against the Islanders. They won that series in 5 games, yet Hurricanes fans still complained about the refs every single game.
Yeah.
And now this series, they're still doing it. And they're like, oh, the refs, they're handing the Rangers the win. The Rangers are cheating. I'm like, dude, you have had 15 power plays in 3 games. Like, I don't want to hear it.
Not only did they have 5 power plays, we got a shorthanded goal, so they can't say anything.
All is, like, throughout the first 7 games of the postseason, the Rangers have taken 29 penalties, which, you know, that itself is a problem but like let's ignore it for a minute because on those 29 penalties that the Rangers have had to kill, they've outscored their opponents 3-2. So I guess it's
That's
cooking.
crazy.
And like the funniest part is like normally I would say like oh, like the amount of penalties we're taking, like for now it's fine because we're winning, but like at some point we need to step it up because we're going to come across a team that's going to exploit this problem. Well, the Hurricanes were supposed to be the team that were going to exploit the problem, and they haven't. So like I don't even remember who had the number 1 power play, but I'm sure they're not even in it anymore. Someone fact check me. It might be Edmonton, which could be a problem later
I don't know.
down.
I'd have to look that one up.
Yeah, but
pretty quickly. I might as
yeah.
well.
I don't know though. It's just like Hurricanes fans. I doubt there's any of you watching 26 minutes into this video. You probably just left a hate comment and dipped. But stop complaining about the refs, man. You've had 15 tries. That's your fault, dude. I can't help you there.
All right, so the Rangers power play ranks 3rd in the postseason at 34.5%, and their PK ranks 2nd because Edmonton has killed 100% of the penalties they face. So That's pretty cool for them. But go Rangers.
Yeah. Who had the number 1 power play in the regular season?
I think it was Edmonton, right? Or was it power play number 1? The Lightning. Number 2 were the Hurricanes.
So after we eliminate Carolina, we're number 1 because the Lightning did absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Edmonton was number 4, though. We were number 3, so.
Well, they have Connor McDavid. Oh, that was the other point I thought of that I just wanted to make really quick. I mentioned how Vincent Trocheck was like tied for 2nd and 3rd in points right now in the playoffs behind like Connor McDavid. But keep in mind, the Rangers have played the fewest amount of games throughout the playoffs because they swept.
True.
And then just are up 3-0. Like Edmonton, I believe they won in 5, and then now they've played 2 more. So maybe we've played the same amount of games. I don't know what I'm talking about, but compared to a lot of other teams that are doing really good, like Colorado played in a decent amount of games. I think the Stars are really good, but like they had a game 7. And then I've had a couple games. So the Rangers, the fact that our guys are still leading the score, like the standings and points, while not playing as many games as everyone else, pretty impressive. So I wanted to put that out there.
No, it's super impressive. I mean, the team is just playing super well. But I got curious now. I'm looking at more stats because you mentioned the Rangers penalties being a little bit of a problem. And I'm actually looking around. They have 88 penalty minutes. It's actually 5th in the postseason right now, and 4th is the Hurricanes at 105. Boston leads with 159. If you're looking at these numbers, obviously Boston's played 2 extra games. But
I wanted to note, not yesterday, or the day before, one of the last 2, Boston, Florida, game 2. Like remember when the Rangers and the who was it we got into the line brawl with? Was it the Devils?
Was it the Islanders? I don't remember.
This is bad that I don't remember that. But like it was like a situation like that where there was like 100 penalty minutes administered in like 30 seconds. I think it was the Devils that we did it with. But so I think that's easily. I'm sure Florida is really high up there too. But
yeah, they're 2nd.
Yeah, that's why, because they had an absolute like bloodbath on the ice a couple nights ago. So
there you go.
But it still is a factor to keep in mind. But
definitely.
But yeah, I don't know. I've pretty much wrapped up my thoughts. Game 4 tomorrow at 7. We'll be live streaming. Was there any final thoughts you had, Tony?
This is a second line from the gods, man. Shout out to the second line. Just shout out to the Rangers, man. They're playing excellent, and I'm super happy. I'm waiting for my Vinny T jersey to get in. It should be here in a couple days, and best believe that'll be making its appearance on the live stream soon enough.
I love this team. I've fallen in love with a lot of different Rangers teams throughout the years, but this one, it's special. Like it feels real. Every year I've entered the playoffs being like a little nervous, a little jittery. I'm like maybe we can beat this team, and then maybe that team will beat us in 5. But this year, I'm like, I don't care, dude. We're just going to steamroll through everyone that comes in our way. And I fully believe that. Like, I'm not even just saying it for the show. I wake up every morning and I'm just like, I feel fresh and renewed, and I'm just ready to just win because I forgot what it feels like to lose. We've won so much.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's been so long since the Rangers have lost. It's like I don't know how we're gonna handle it when they do. If they do,
if they do. I don't know. I have thought about that where, it's been over a month since the Rangers last lost a game. Whenever it happens, I might just go into like a deep depression because I've become an entitled little brat. I just like to win. But I don't know. That about wraps up today's Game 3 recap and review. Like I just said before, Game 4 will be tomorrow. Rangers looking to make it 8 straight and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2022. Not that long, but we all know how that one ended. The goals this year are a lot bigger, higher stakes, and we're ready to just win the cup. But if you want to be a part of that live stream tomorrow and all the future videos to come, make sure that you hit that like, hit that subscribe, and you ring that bell so you don't miss notification if you're watching us on Apple or Spotify. Be sure to give us a 5-star review. Once again, leave your thoughts on Game 3 down in the comment section below if there's anything that we might have missed in today's recap. Lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. Lastly, have a good one, and let's go Rangers.